Good morning. Happy Friday. It is the first Friday of the month. And if you are new here, my name is Tina Holland. And every first Friday of the month at 11:30 Central Standard Time, I talk about some personal stuff, writing, publishing, and then kind of a hot topic. So it's a little low key today. I don't have slides. Normally, sometimes I have slides, or sometimes I have like other things that I'll talk about or whatever, but this one's going to be pretty low key. So first of all, welcome to First Friday Lunch. So my name is Tina Holland, and we just covered all that. I forgot. See, I'm kind of flustered or whatever. So well, let's just move on. We'll just move on to the topics. So first, personal, actually not a lot going on health wise. I'm doing better. I think, well, like I've said before, my doctor and I have a pretty good cocktail for my diabetes. I'm still a member of the board, right? There's my thing. We've been getting snow, so that has left us in the house a little bit. Like right after this phone call, we're going to go and run our weekly errands, like go to the grocery store and stuff like that. So we're going to do that, and then I don't know what I'm going to do this week. Well, I kind of have an idea that'll fall into like our hot topic or whatever. So um, see, we're moving along so fast. Writing and publishing. So writing wise, I am participating in the A to Z challenge with Writers and Garden, and I will put a link down below. Our blog will have, if you haven't ever heard of it, the A to Z challenge is where you blog every day and you pick a letter and every day except Sundays in the month of April. So then your days equal up to having the full 26 letters of the alphabet. So I think I did B for books, E for, is E today? I gotta think here. I think E's tomorrow. So I won't say what it was, but I'll put the link down below. So if you want, you can go and check that out and read the topics. So I'm sure other blogs are doing it. You can probably Google hashtag A to Z challenge, no spaces. And I'm sure you can find a bunch of blogs that are doing that. Maybe even something that you're interested in. So that's what I'm kind of doing writing wise. I just finished, just finished How to Love a Lord. And I that process is done, and I put it on my e-reader. I'll talk a little bit about what I did. The hot topic this time around is after you like type the end, like what do you do? So that's kind of what I'll be talking about. But I just got that done. I'm starting to line up alpha readers. My critique partners, hold on. Dog wants to come in. Come on in. You interrupted. Okay, you have to move because my chair's gonna go right there. Okay. Indigo had to come in. Why, I don't know, but she had to come in. So she's sitting down here. That's my mom's dog. She's a blue heeler, which is very unusual if you've never owned a blue heeler, because their whole language, we've had like labs, which are super chill and they're kind of like snuggly and they want to hang out with you. They just want to be with you all the time. Although our current lab Kraken is very he wants to do outdoor things. Like he wants to be farm dog. He wants to go hunting. He wants to be out at the airport or the lakes or whatever. He's a very like, I want to be doing things outside with you guys. He doesn't really want to be, stuck in the house. So this like 2 day storm we had, not a happy dog, not a happy dog. So he gets to come with us to get groceries today. So that'll be exciting. And but then Indy, so she's a blue heeler, but their whole language is barking. Like the whole thing. Like you get up in the morning, they're like, "You're up, bark, bark, bark." You go down to make a cup of tea and bark, bark, bark. Like it's bark all day, and they're excited. When they're concerned, they kind of make noises too. Took a lot of getting used to, but she's really mellowed out since we first got her. So crazy. Anyway, so back to writing and publishing. So I just finished How to Love a Lord, and I'm going to pull up this share screen, and I will share this one little text that I've got. So I don't normally work with the little mouse, but when I have my speaker going, it seems to be a thing. So Uh, okay, there we go. So this is actually not the cover. The cover will be probably close to that, but I'm gonna flip down to the next thing here too. What to do after you're finished. So I'm gonna kind of go over what I do, how my process works. And what I do is I basically typed the end. I did a spell check like on the software, and I use Google Docs to write in. So I did a spell check to kind of make sure that was done. I highlight things in the document that I need to like fix. So I did all that. And those were the two things. And then I went out and I'm to EPUB or to Draft to Digital, and I made an EPUB file and this cover because I will eventually go and upload the actual cover. But I read it as an EPUB on my e-reader, and I'll make notes and annotations and corrections and stuff. And I've done that already. And what I found was I needed some transition scenes because I kind of had probably because I wrote it in a block. Like I wrote this scene and then I wrote that scene, and I didn't have a good transition between the two scenes. So as I was reading it, it looked pretty choppy. So I went ahead and I was like, add more transition here, add one of the things that came back in my critique group was this story, as if you've read How to Love a Major or How to Marry a Major, How to Marry a Major. This story, it has Arabella and Pierce in it. And this isn't more of a novella, which surprised me, but it is so tight. I'm not sure where I could expand it without throwing in a villain I don't need. Because a lot of my longer works have villains in them, I notice. Like my whole Gaslamp series, Courtesan of Constantinople and Alchemist of Archangel both have villains in them. And so I'm like, I need a villain. And then I'm like, in order to get it longer. So, and the other thing is this couple, they kind of get together, even though they have history, because they have history in the first book. They're kind of a enemy. I want to say enemies to lovers. But they were kind of lovers to enemies to lovers again is probably a better better description because of something that happened 2 years ago or whatever. And so that'll probably be in the blurb, but I'm not going to share it right now. But I'm sure when I do the back blurb, it'll be in there. So just because there's sexy times in the prologue, but they get together so early on in the book that all their conflict or external obstacles pushing on them and don't have anything to do with them as a couple. So because they get together, they kind of correct the errors relatively quickly. And so it's sort of a them against the world sort of thing. So I do like that a lot in Regencies. I think as a mature author, without saying how old I am, I think I prefer this it's us against the world sort of thing. And I don't create a lot of angst between my characters. Plus my characters for the time period are older. I mean, they're not super old. I think she's 23, 24. I'll have to look and see. That was the other thing I found out. I got to create a series Bible because I have a lot of characters right now. It looks like I have characters for 7 books, maybe 10. And I might have to split them up, like have a first generation. And that doesn't even count like Amelia and James' story or any of the parents, because I could possibly do their stories as well. And almost did for this one. She's scratching at the carpet, so I apologize if you can hear that, because it's going to get more comfortable if you scratch it. Whatever. Anyway, so that's like the first thing I do is I'll go ahead and load it onto an e-reader and read it as a thing. And then my husband couldn't fall asleep. So he's like, could you just read it to me? And I'm like, okay, I got 2 chapters left, so you'll get that. And the last 3 chapters are with my critique group. So I'll finish that up, see what edits they have. And then I will probably, because I have some questions. A couple of my critique partners, Maddie Barone, M.A. Depp, and Renee are all in SCA. And so sometimes they will have they were extremely helpful the first time around because they can explain entailments and stuff like that. So I still have to make sure that the baseline, the story that I have working works. If it doesn't work, because I just realized that the relatives that I made the bad guys are actually the mother's relatives. And I'm like, I don't know if they could ever take the thing. So I got to ask that question, because if I don't get it straightened out before I send it to my editor, Sandra, she'll be like, that, no, no, that's wrong. And I'm like, oh. So I'll have to ask some of those questions. So that's kind of my next step. And then I am looking for alpha readers and I found a couple before I go to my editor, just so that it's clean or whatever. I should say that I actually made this cover on BookBrush, and then I finished on Canva because I could find the fonts I wanted better. And so it's a totally a temporary one. I will hire an editor for or I will hire the same cover artist that did How to Marry a Major, so the fonts will be all the same and everything. And plus, this one's very muted, which is extremely popular in Regency right now. But I really like these bolder colors, mostly because I think that it indicates that there's sexy times or whatever. I think that that I would say sexy colors, but like reds and stuff like that. Although she's not wearing there, I don't know if there will be much red or whatever. So it's a thing. It's a thing. So, but this is pretty close approximation. I might send this over to Melody, my cover artist, and see if she is able to do, tweak something or find something like this, because I kind of want them in an outside setting. I want maybe a green dress, I think. And then I just want him in a shirt and pants. I don't want uh something that's not a shirt and pants, because I think that would be more who he is, because he isn't a lord right away in the openings of the novel. So that kind of happens later. So, and that's part of the mystery of how did he become and all this stuff. So I'll have to look and see, but I got questions. So that'll be like my next process, is send it over to, once the critique group is done with it and I've cleaned and the alpha reader is done with it, I will probably send it over to the editor. Or, well, actually I might do that simultaneously, because she may not be able to get me in right away, or she may not be doing it at all anymore, because I checked her website and I was like, ooh, maybe she's not doing it. But I did find another person that might be able to do it. And so I kind of have a backup editor that I might approach, although I have no idea what her prices are. So that's the other thing, is that sometimes too, like when you finish typing the end, a lot of stuff is going to depend on whether or not you are going to go traditionally published, or if you're self-publishing. I used to make covers for my books even before, because I would always load it up on my e-reader and read through it before I sent it over to my publisher. And even though that was never the final cover art, as a matter of fact, when I was shopping around this book, and it had like 3 different title alliterations, then I did a cover, and it was like kind of a Regency thing, and she was sitting on a swing, and I was like, this is but it's doable. I just need something to make it look finished on my e-reader. Otherwise it bugs me. I'm like, no, I gotta do this. So I've done that too with people who ask like to read books. I will load it up make it an EPUB, and then I'll put it on my e-readers just so I can read it faster. So, because the other thing is, depends on what they need. If you need it to be edited, I'll read it in document, like whatever form they send it to me. But if you're looking for an ARC reader or a beta reader or an alpha reader or whatever, depending on what they want, I might usually just load it up on my EPUB, because then I can just read it. And if I can read it for enjoyment and my non-editing eye, and I'm not a super great, I'm pretty good at some edits, but other stuff, it's like, but if I don't catch it, if it doesn't bother me, then I'll just keep reading the story. So I did that with my friend Maddie Barone when her book, Lobo's Mate, I think it's called Lobo's Mate, and she was kind of looking for people to preview it before it went live. Really? I just let you in. She was looking for people. Well, you can grumble all you want. You're staying in here. She was looking for people to preview it before she basically put it out on the marketplaces. And so I said, yeah, I can read it. And I just loaded it up on my e-reader just because it was going to be easier for me to read. And I caught a couple of things, but really not much. So, although I love her writing. And so if you like shifter romance, and she has shifters, and then she's like a contemporary like fireman series. And I think they're all in KU right now. but she has a shifter series called After the Crash, and it takes place in the future, but it's pretty good. So I really like it. And it's not, I would say it's like average heat level. It's not super, super hot, but it's like kind of, I don't even know what you would compare it to. It's got a good heat level, but it's not super spicy. So there's no menages, there's none of that stuff. So it's pretty vanilla. But I hesitate to use the word vanilla, but yeah, I would say it's probably vanilla if you're thinking, and it's not like dark romance or anything like that. It tends to have a lighter feel. And she also has that too, where she will write kind of she has a few angsty characters, but a lot of them are kind of get together at the beginning, and then it's the obstacles they have to overcome to be with each other, which is also what happened with this story, How to Love a Lord. Is they got together pretty early on and had feelings for each other. I think I have the love you kind of, I think it's on their wedding night that they say that they love each other. So they do already know that they love one another. And then I just had a few bows to tie up at the end. So it's just like, is that enough? So, and without adding in the next heroine's story, I'm like, I just don't know how I could plump it up anymore without a villain or adding in extra characters, POVs, which I don't really want to do. I kind of want to keep it tight to the current couple. So, because I got enough stuff going on, because there's overlapping timeline between this one, and actually there's the original timeline takes place before this, the prologue does, and then there's an overlapping timeline up until they kind of separate for a little bit of a period or whatever, and then they get married. So, but it's pretty fast. I think it moves. I'm like, that was one of the things I asked some of my alpha readers about, like, is this pacing too fast? Because I always do the dark moment and then it's a roller coaster to the end. It is like you're going straight down. It's like boom and the end. You're like, okay, well, did I want to do that? I don't know. So, and I might see if there needs to be an epilogue or whatever too, but my critique partners are pretty good about that. So, but I think, yeah, it's just going to be a novella rather than a novel, even though this is a very short novel. So we'll see what it ends up at. I'm hoping it's long enough to kind of put into print. So once I upload it to like Amazon, and then I'll check the print options and see if it's long enough. And that might decide too where else I publish it. So what I do is once I'm done, I go ahead and I do that process. And then the two things that I will either do is this month I am going to have to focus on my backlist because my publisher closed. Book Boutiques closed on March 31st. It's going to take a while for all the all the books to get off of the sites. So if you feel compelled to buy one of my books, that's fine. I will get paid. The Book Boutiques has always been very good about paying me. So, but it's going to take a while for those books to come down. And I figure I was hoping they'd be down by like the 15th, but I don't know if they will. I think it might actually take a full month for some of them to get down. And Book Boutiques only took the digital rights. So I have rights to like the Steampunk series. And I think that my Dealing with the Dead series is out in an omnibus or whatever. And so because they were shorter works. So those I've asked for like the cover art too. And so we'll see if that comes back. And those I will definitely put out on my own, but I don't know if I'll be able to do anything until May. And so some of that is when you're done and you've hit the end, what I do is I take a break. Like right after I do this critique partners, I think I'm going to let this thing sit for a week. I'll make the changes and I will maybe do a couple little tweaks before I send it over to my editor. And I think I'm going to have to maybe message her next Monday and find out, hey, do you have space in the schedule to do this? And it's only X long, and see where we're at. So, and she may or she may not, because I think last time that I booked her, I finished How to Marry a Major well, that wasn't even the title when I gave it to her. I think I finished it in August and got it back in September, did some rewrites, gave it back to her. And that was, I think, by all said and done, I think I paid 800 and some odd change. But like I said, this was a shorter work. But then the funny thing was, I ended up rewriting the whole book after I had her edit it. And one of the things that was really good is that she did explain entailment and then the titles to me, which I did not understand. And so that was worth it just to like finally understand that. And then I'm still like, do I? Because I will see people referred to as like when I learned it, it was like mm, Lord Bob of Storybrooke would be Lord Lord Bob Hope of Storybrooke, and it wouldn't be Lord Hope, it'd be Lord Storybrooke. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I got that in my head. But I've been seeing things like Lord Bob, Lady Jane, and I'm like, is that right too? It was super confusing. So that's like a thing I'll ask my critique group, like, how does that work? So so critique group, then book with the editor, and then I will probably almost certainly book with my cover artist right away because I'd like to get that out because I would like to have this book done by May 1st. So those are the things. And then what I'll do is I'll probably start working. I was torn between working on book 3 of my Gaslamp series or book 3 of the Regency series. And I've decided to work on book 3 simply because I'm already in the headspace of the world and I've got the ideas were already filtering up during this writing of this book. So I'm like, okay, I will do the next one. So which will be Prue and an unknown person at this point. So that'll be the next one. But yeah, Arabelle and Pierce are done and I put them away. And then I kind of work on the marketing stuff of it because until I get the edits back from the editor, because I need to not touch it. That's like my biggest problem is I'll get little tweaks back and I want to go in and I want to change everything. And I'm like, I need to wait on that. I need to wait and see what the editor says. So so I probably will go ahead and send the get my critiques back next Tuesday. So Wednesday, I'll have probably all the edits or the critiques back from my critique group. Then I'll send it to my alpha readers. And then after I do that, which I think right now I've only got like one. And then once I send it to them, the following week, I will book an appointment with Sandra. And then I will also schedule Melody for the cover art. And then I will work on it from that point of view and just kind of look at that. And then in the meantime, I will write the next one, which is always what you should do once you finish a book. And if you're querying, you want to go ahead and query. I would not, that was another thing I was going to say, is there are a lot of agents and some publishing houses, but mostly agents that are recommending that you edit your work before, like pay an editor before you send it to them. And I would be hesitant to do this unless you need a like you're struggling with one aspect of the craft. I wouldn't do it. So because like you could hire a copy editor and they'll fix your sentences and stuff like that. But if there's something ultimately wrong with your book, they're not going to catch it. You're much better off working with a group of authors who do critiques that write in the same genre than paying an editor if you're planning on going traditional publishing. Because you could pay an editor who would edit everything else out and it wouldn't match whatever publishing house you're submitting to. So I would not do that. And then the other thing is I would create Canva, like go out to Canva and BookBrush and create cover art just to like have an idea to give to a cover artist. Or if you're super like good at that sort of thing, go ahead and do, because I would not be surprised if whatever cover art I get resembles this one. And I may send this over to Melody. I haven't decided yet. So I may send this over to her. And just so she has kind of an idea of what I'm looking for physically in the characters. But like I said, I would much prefer to have bolder colors so that at least when you have all these on a shelf, they kind of match up. And I might even suggest that she has kind of this wrap that these match. So like the palette matches, because then it'll be so much easier if you have a group of them and they all look kind of alike when you're they're on your bookshelf. That would be awesome. So those are kind of the things that I would do. That's what I'm going to do with my stuff is I'm going to kind of look at my backlist and see what can be tweaked and fixed and stuff. And some of it I'm actually thinking about rewriting and submitting, like adding, because there's a couple of publishers that I've always wanted to work with. And if I can lengthen my work, that might be an opportunity to get in with a publisher. Some people like totally and fully embrace self-publishing, but I am one of those people that really likes to work with publishers, partially because I think that it's a different market share sometimes. A lot of the publishers that I want to, there's like 3 of them that I would like to work with, well, 4 that I would like to work with very much. A couple of them I'm like, these novellas are already not long enough because they need novels. And so a couple of them I'm going to look at and tweak, but the only series that I'm going to keep self-published are going to be my Dealing with the Dead series, the Regency, which I already started self-publishing because the market was so small and nobody wanted this story. And so the Regency, and then the Gaslamp series, because I've already got those in print. And so I don't want to do anything with them. So I might end up hitting a stumbling block because I already have some audiobooks out on those other books as well. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, so that's what I've got planned. And let me know if you have any questions. You can put them in wherever you found this, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Just go ahead and put in your question. I'll answer it the best of my ability. And then I hope to see you next month. Let me stop sharing here. There we go. Which will be next. Ooh, can I get that one? Oh, okay. How about, there we go. I forgot you have to click it and then click it again. So next month, our our next First Friday lunch will be May 2nd at 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So go ahead and pencil me in for lunch.